Every Thanksgiving, I knew something was wrong. At first, it was only a sense, like a draft slipping through a closed window, and nothing was immediately apparent. My spouse of 30 years, Duff, insisted that we spend Thanksgiving apart every year. I would stay with my family while he went to see his. It was our tradition. He would pack his bag, kiss me on the cheek, and say, "I'll be back in a few days," every year without fail. I never asked why. However, I couldn't get rid of the uneasy feeling I had this year. This year, why don't we just get together for Thanksgiving? One evening, as I was folding laundry, I asked him. We haven't taken a family holiday in such a long time. Duff's grin went cold. His voice was sharp enough to pierce the atmosphere as he stated, "We've already talked about this. Years ago, we decided that each of us would celebrate Thanksgiving with our own families. Why do you now bring this up? Duff, it's been 30 years, I said. Why can't we make a change right now?" Our oldest, David, looked up from his phone. "No one does it anymore, Mom. Holidays are typically spent apart by couples. It's not a huge concern." Duff's voice tightened as he continued, "This way, it's just easier." I refrained from arguing. I smiled on the outside and let it go. However, after everyone had gone to bed that evening, I purchased a train ticket to Duff's hometown. I needed to find out what he was concealing. Everything changed when I discovered it. Late in the afternoon, I got there. Duff grew up in a humble two-story house with a worn front porch, just like I remembered. As I got closer to the door, my pulse was pounding, but before I could knock, I heard laughter coming from the backyard. Comforting, well-known laughter. I cautiously walked around the house's side and looked through the fence. Duff was seated at a picnic table made of wood, peeling a tangerine for a woman. I recognized right away, Alicia Swan. Painfully, my gut twisted. Duff's first love was Alicia. Over the years, I had heard her name mentioned in passing, but Duff consistently dismissed it. "We were children," he would remark. It's very old history, however, it wasn't. With practiced ease, Duff peeled the tangerine and gave the segments to Alicia, who grinned up at him with that same flawless, timeless face I'd seen on social media. Our kids, David and Amy, were behind them, giggling like they had done this a million times before while exploding fireworks. I clutched my chest as I stumbled backward. I was having trouble breathing. This was not an isolated incident. This was created, typical. Thanksgivings for 30 years, lies for 30 years. I was startled out of my reverie by a vibration in my pocket. Without giving it any thought, I took out my phone and accessed Instagram. It was Alicia's most recent post. "One more Thanksgiving. I hope we spend another 30 years together." With the children laughing in the background, the video showed Duff peeling the tangerine for Mom. Many people commented on the caption saying things like, "So nice," as well as goals. In her next life, I hope my mom finds love like this. Even though I was laughing sourly, tears were streaming down my face. My children's father, my husband of 30 years, had been spending Thanksgiving with Alicia each year, claiming to be seeing long-lost family members. I staggered out of sight of the home. I stood numbly at the ticket booth at the train station. The agent added softly, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but the tickets to San Diego are sold out." "They are, of course," I muttered. I felt like my entire existence was sold out. Still holding my phone, I walked over to a bench and sat down. As I read through Alicia's post's comments, my hands shook. "How fortunate you are! I wish you another 30 years of happiness with your family. After all these years, how did you manage to stay so close?" I was on the verge of commenting. The key? Let your children play along while you lie to your wife for 30 years. I felt the chill of the evening air as I sat back and wiped my face. A new message rang on my phone. David was the one. "Are you all right, Mom?" I didn't respond. Before I closed the app, I took one more look at the Duff and Alicia video. Then I mumbled to myself, "I'm done," and let my phone drop onto my lap. How I got home that evening is a mystery to me. The train station was a blur, and while I sat there repeatedly watching what I had seen, the cold chewed through my thin sweater. Alicia's delicate hand was resting on Duff's arm as if it were supposed to be there, and they were sitting so close. In the background, my children are laughing contentedly, as if this had always been their life. Around midnight, I staggered in the front door. Aside from the faint hum of the refrigerator, the home was still and dark. David had left me another message when my phone buzzed. "When you get home, Mom, give me a call." Disregarding it, I threw my luggage on the couch. I sat down and stared at the wall because my legs felt like they could give out. I had a hollow chest. 30 years. I could sense all the subtle clues I had disregarded coming together in my head. Duff didn't make the necklace for me in our 10th year of marriage. I recalled how gently he had handled it and how his eyes softened as he spoke about it. Even though he claimed it was a gift for our daughter, Alicia was the recipient of that jewelry and the films from Polaroid that he always bought in bulk before Thanksgiving. I would find the packets in his drawer each year. However, there were never any pictures after Thanksgiving, as I wasn't the intended recipient of the photos. It was followed by the scarf. His favorite was the soft wool one with embroidered plum blossoms, which I knitted him a new one every year. I never saw him wear it, though. I now understood why. Before the front door opened, I sat there with tears blazing behind my eyes. Still wearing his jacket, David entered. When he spotted me, his eyes tightened. "Why didn't you answer your phone, Mom?" "David," I said, my voice breaking. "You've known for how long?" His expression stiffened. "What are you discussing?" "Don't," I muttered. "Don't tell me lies." David's mouth clenched. Similar to Duff's uneasy habit, he ran a hand through his dark hair. "Look, Mom, it's not that simple." "No," I answered firmly as I got to my feet. "It's not. You either knew or didn't." David's lips curled. All right, indeed, I was aware." My breath caught. I stepped back. "How long?" I pushed out. David's eyes fell to the ground. His voice trailed off. "Since high school. But according to Dad, it wasn't a huge deal. He advised us not to tell you, as doing so would only make you angry." I put my hand to my lips. "So you've been filling in for him all along?" "That wasn't the case," David yelled. "He just didn't want to hurt you, Dad. Furthermore, he wasn't exactly cheating. All he was doing was hanging out with an old friend." I gave a sour laugh. "A longtime friend?" On Thanksgiving, no less. He spent 30 years with his old friend. And you were aware. David's gaze flickered. "Why do you think this is so important?" He fired back. "People have complex relationships, Mom. Did Dad still come home to you? He provided you with a happy existence. What more would you like?" Stunned, I gazed at him. "A happy life?" I raised my voice. "You believe that living the happy life entails being deceived for 30 years? You and your sister helped my husband hide the fact that he spent the holidays with someone else." David's expression grew gloomy. "You're overreacting, Mom." Amy was still wearing her hair in a ponytail when she entered. "What's happening?" "She is aware," David whispered. Amy's gaze expanded. "Oh," she swallowed, looking quickly at David. "You've known for how long?" I turned to face her, speaking in a dangerously composed tone. She whispered, "Point since I was about 16. I closed my eyes tightly. For more than 10 years, my own children had been hiding this from me. "Why?" I muttered. "Why would you harm me in this way?" "Because Dad requested it." David's tone became piercing. "He had no intention of harming you. And to be honest, you've always been so sensitive about such things. Delicate." David's face was pinched with frustration as I opened my eyes. "Can you hear yourself at all?" I said icily. "You act like it's some little annoyance when you talk about my marriage and my life." "Calm down, Mom," I said in a shaky voice. Don't tell me to relax," Amy stepped forward hesitantly. "We didn't mean to harm you, Mom. We believed that this was a superior approach. For whom is it better?" I fired back. "For you? For Duff?" "Not for me, of course." David laughed. "You must move past this, Mom. Your father did not cheat on you. He was merely fulfilling a commitment." "A pledge?" I said it again. "What assurance?" Amy and David looked at each other. He assured Alicia's parents that he would look after her," Amy remarked. "When Alicia was young, they passed away. There was no one else for her." I gaped at them in shock. "You're telling me that he gave up our 30-year marriage over a commitment made as a child?" David folded his arms. He was keeping his promise. "As you have always stated, it is important to maintain your promise," I growled. "Not when it ruins your family." David's face became stern. "Now that it's finished, what will you do about it?" There was an oppressive hush in the room. My chest constricted. I'm not sure, I muttered. David laughed. Exactly. You need him, but you won't do anything about it. You will not abandon him. Without Dad, how would you ever manage? My throat constricted. I was having trouble breathing. I whispered, I think you should go. David's brow furrowed. What? My voice grew piercing as I shouted, Get out! David started to speak, but I interrupted him. David, I'm exhausted. I need you to go. David's expression contorted in annoyance. After shaking his head, he bounded for the door. Amy paused, her eyes wide with doubt. Please, Mom, I firmly stated, I need time. David slammed the door behind him after pulling it open. After a final uncertain glance, Amy vanished down the hallway. I trembled as I stood there. The house fell silent once more. My entire body hurt. My phone started buzzing all of a sudden. This time, a message from Duff. Could we talk, Esther? With my pulse pounding terribly in my chest, I gazed at the television. After shutting off my phone, I sat down on the couch and covered my face with my hands. The tears came silently and sharply, quickly and forcefully. I didn't know what was going to happen next for the first time in 30 years. Duff's message went unanswered by me. Or the subsequent one. Or, later, the 10. Morning, noon, and night, he also called. I would always watch his name appear on the screen and wait for it to stop ringing. Amy and David also made an effort. Just talk to him, Mom. You're exaggerating the situation. Even worse than it is? I had no idea how to react to that. When you discover that your husband of 30 years has been spending Thanksgiving with someone else, what could be worse? Even worse than discovering that your own kids assisted in hiding it? I had lost my anger. Simply put, hollow. It was too quiet in the house. The chaos of family life used to wear me out, but suddenly the silence was intolerable. It took me 2 days after Thanksgiving to leave the house. Walking down to the park where I used to take David and Amy as children, I made my way there. The walkway was littered with the remnants of the fall leaves, and the air was brisk. A few children were laughing lightly as they played on the swings. I watched the sky become darker while I sat on a seat and rubbed my hands together for warmth. Esther? My heart tightened. I knew who it was without turning around. Duff took a seat beside me. He didn't appear to realize that I had moved away. With his hands clenched between his knees, he exhaled deeply. He said, You've been ignoring me. I understand. We were silent for a long time. After some time, he said, I didn't mean for you to find out like that. I laughed resentfully. Oh? Well, how was I going to know? Did you hold off on telling me the truth until after Alicia's funeral? Duff flinched. Esther. I turned to face him and interrupted, saying, No. Tell me about it, Duff. Tell me why you felt it was acceptable to deceive me for 30 years. Duff's jaw clenched. He wiped his face with his hand. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. Oh? My voice became piercing. What precisely was it meant to be? He lowered his gaze to his hands. When I was younger, Alicia's parents looked after me. To me, they were like family. I assured them that I would take care of Alicia once they passed away. She felt so isolated. I considered if I simply had Thanksgiving with her every year, I concluded icily. Duff winced. That was the only thing she requested. I shook my head, not believing it. That's it then? Because of a vow you made before we were even married, you prioritized her before me, our marriage, and our family? Duff's defensiveness flared in his eyes. That wasn't the case. Esther, I still picked you. I wed you. You married me, I said again, sounding empty. And then told me a lie, again and again, for 30 years. Duff balled his hands into fists. I thought you wouldn't get it. That's wealthy, I sneered. Because you never gave me a chance at all. Duff let out a sigh and looked down at the floor. I didn't intend to cause you any harm. Well, I yelled, congratulations. You didn't succeed. Duff's head snapped upward. His face tensed. What should I have done? I shot back. Oh, I don't know. Perhaps you shouldn't cheat on your wife for 30 years? Duff's eyes became gloomy. I didn't betray you. You weren't? I gave a chilly, scathing chuckle. Is it not betrayal to sit at a table and peel tangerines for your first love as our children play with her as if it were every day? He didn't respond. My chest was burning as I shook my head. What's worse than lying, do you know? My voice faltered. That you also forced Amy and David to lie to me. Duff's mouth clenched. I didn't tell them to lie. You weren't required to, I remarked icily. They took your lead, as they always have. Duff combed through his thinning locks. They had no intention of harming you. Stop stating that. My voice broke. I was harmed by them because of you. Duff's expression darkened. So what? I gazed at him. I recognized every line and wrinkle on his face, but I was no longer able to sense anything. I'm not sure, I muttered. However, I doubt I can pardon you for this. Duff's jaw clenched. He shoved his hands into his coat pockets and stood carefully. He said, I'll give you some time, he said quietly. He turned and left, and I remained silent. His footsteps faded as his form vanished down the trail. Long after he had gone, I sat there, breathing heavily in the chilly air. I had trouble sleeping that night. Staring at the ceiling, I laid in bed. My thoughts were racing as they twisted through both new and ancient memories. At midnight, my phone began to buzz. Amy. I choose to disregard it. It buzzed once more after a minute. Please pick up, Mom. I sat up, answered on the third ring, and sighed. What? May we come over, Mom? Amy spoke in a little voice. We? David and myself. I paused. Why? Dad is the subject. I rubbed my eyes. All right. Amy and David were sitting on the couch 20 minutes later, both of them appearing uneasy. David was the first to speak. Look, we apologize. For what purpose? I inquired. For lying? Amy muttered. David's lips curled. We simply had no idea what else to do. It was best if you didn't know, according to Dad, and you trusted him. David's face became stern. Yes. I let out a tired sigh. Why are you here now, then? David gave Amy a quick look. Because we're unsure of what to do. I scowled. How about? David paused. Then he gave me his phone after taking it out. It was the most recent post from Alicia. An ideal Thanksgiving spent with loved ones. Duff was seated at the table next to Alicia in the picture. Amy and David sat close by, grinning rigidly. The remarks were full of compliments. Lovely family! Real love endures! Wow, 30 years together. Painfully, my gut twisted. David combed his hair with his hand. That was posted by her today. She's causing trouble, Amy remarked softly. She does every time, David whispered. We simply didn't notice it earlier. I put the phone down. I had trembling hands. David paused before saying, Mom, what are your plans? I looked up into his eyes. I spoke steadily. I'm not sure yet, I muttered. However, I will no longer stand by and watch it happen. David's face grew serious. Amy took a deep breath. I got up and moved in the direction of the door. Where are you heading? David inquired. To go to sleep? I said plainly. I have a lot on my mind. David let out a sigh. Mom. I took a look behind me. Tell Duff I'm busy if he calls. David's jaw clenched. Amy moved uneasily. With my heart racing, I leaned against the door and closed it behind me. I'd trusted them for 30 years. I needed to learn how to trust myself now. The following morning, I felt nothing at all. No anger, no grief, nothing except emptiness. I felt as though I had been completely depleted by someone. It was quiet in the home, but not a reassuring stillness, the kind that seems to be lacking something. I was looking through my phone while sitting at the kitchen table with a half-drunk cup of coffee getting cold in my hands. Duff hadn't sent another message. It was the first time. However, another update had been issued by Alicia. A great brunch with the family. I am incredibly thankful for 30 years of love and joy. Duff was pictured with his hand on Alicia's shoulder as he stood behind her. Amy and David sat beside her, grinning as if everything were usual, as though they had done this 100 times already. My throat constricted. I massaged my face and threw the phone on the table. Esther. I leaped. Duff stood with his hands in his jacket pockets in the doorway. There were shadows beneath his eyes, and his hair was a bit more unkempt than usual. Why are you in this place? Sharply, I said. We must speak. We spoke, I retorted. All we've done is talk. Duff let out a sigh. I need you to comprehend. You get it? My voice became piercing. What precisely am I expected to comprehend, Duff? Shutting the door behind him, he entered. I wasn't really cheating on you. Oh, really? I chuckled sourly. You believe it's better just because you didn't have sex with her? Duff's mouth clenched. I was honoring a commitment. I yelled at you. You keep saying that like it's supposed to justify everything. Yes, you did make a pledge to her parents. However, what about me? Did our vows have any significance? Duff opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I responded icily. I supported you when you lost your job. I put in 2 shifts. When you were unable to pick up the pieces, I did. While you were playing home with Alicia, I took care of our children. That's unfair, Duff whispered. Oh, it's unfair? I pushed my chair back and got up. It wasn't me who slipped away each year. My spouse wasn't being lied to by me. My children weren't being used as a front for me. Duff's expression darkened. They weren't told to lie by me. You weren't required to, I remarked coldly. Duff's expression was one of exasperation as he ran a hand through his hair. I didn't think it would matter, Esther. I went cold. My throat tightened each breath. You didn't believe it would make a difference? I slowly repeated. I'm not what I... Stop, I said sharply. Stop chatting. Simply stop. Duff slumped his shoulders. He took a heavy seat at the table and used both hands to wipe his face. He said, I didn't mean to hurt you. I remarked, that doesn't make it better. He gave a shaky breath. I have no idea how to resolve this. I folded my arms and leaned against the counter. You can't. We were silent for a long time. Duff sat up at last, his face reserved. Well, what comes next? I looked at him for a while. I went to the door and opened it after that. Go, I murmured quietly. Duff paused. His gaze grew gloomy. Esther, leave. Duff's mouth clenched. His eyes were harsh as he stood. You're going overboard. It nearly made me chuckle. Are you overreacting? You have the audacity to accuse me of exaggerating after deceiving me for 30 years. Duff's face turned red with annoyance. There was no affair. It makes no difference, I yelled. You didn't tell me about it. You told a lie. You got our children engaged. When I asked why you never wanted to spend Thanksgiving with me, you made me feel like I was insane. Duff's lips formed a narrow line. He moved in the direction of the door. All right, he answered rigidly. If that's your feeling, I responded icily. That's exactly how I feel. In the doorway, he stopped. I briefly believed he might say something else. However, he simply shook his head and left. With a gentle click, the door shut behind him. I listened to the silence for a long time while I stood there. Amy and David arrived the following day. The doorbell rang when I was in the kitchen doing the dishes. I opened the door with a sigh. Amy was standing behind David, both of them wearing strained expressions. Mom, David began. What? I said in a dull tone. David gave his neck a gentle stroke. We didn't intend for things to become this bad, you see. Oh? I lifted one eyebrow. Did you assume it would end on its own? David's mouth clenched. It's not that easy. I crossed my arms and remarked, it's really that easy. Amy took a step forward. Mom, we simply believed we were keeping you safe. Are you defending me? I gave a harsh laugh. By deceiving me? David's eyes became gloomy. What were we meant to accomplish? I retorted. You could have told me the truth. David let out a sigh. That isn't the case. Yes, I replied coldly. It is. Amy's eyes grew softer. We didn't want to lose you, Mom. Funny, I remarked sourly, because it seems like I've already separated from you. David's lips curled. You're being unjust, Mom. No, I muttered. I've spent 30 years being fair. I have exercised patience. I've been sympathetic. I've been a decent mother and wife. I took a stride in their direction, my voice shaking. What did I receive in return? I muttered. Falsehoods, secrets, a spouse who put another lady before me, and kids who assisted him in doing so. David's expression tensed. Tears filled Amy's eyes. We apologize, Amy muttered. I gave a trembling breath. It's too late to apologize. David's face became stern. Therefore, what will you do? I gave a small smile. I'm not sure. However, I will no longer continue to live this way. David's brow furrowed. Divorce is not something you're considering seriously. I didn't respond. David's lips became thinner. Mom, I whispered, I think you should go. David's mouth clenched. Amy's eyes faltered. Please, Mom. Amy's voice broke. I gave a head shake. I require time. After hesitating, David gave a rigid nod. He took hold of Amy's arm and dragged her in the direction of the entrance. David looked behind him before they went. He remarked, "You're not being reasonable." I gave a small smile. Perhaps not. They departed. I listened to the silence as I stood in the deserted house. Painfully, my chest clenched. It buzzed on my phone. Duff sent another message. "We must speak." I didn't read the rest before deleting it. I then took a suitcase out of the closet and placed it on the bed. I had centered my life on Duff and our kids for 30 years, around bringing them joy. Perhaps it was time to discover what would bring me joy. After they went, the house was too quiet. With the open luggage resting on the bed behind me, I stood for a while. I had trembling hands. I had a constricted chest. 30 years. It felt like a flimsy edifice that had finally given way beneath the weight of Duff's falsehoods. After 30 years of establishing a house, raising David and Amy, and constructing a life with him, I took a seat on the bed's edge and gazed at the suitcase. I was aware of my obligations. However, there is a difference between knowing and doing. I took my phone out. I kept my thumb on Duff's name. After that, I paused at Alicia's profile after scrolling down. She had just uploaded a new photo. Family lunch on Sunday. I'm really appreciative. Once more, they were seated next to Alicia at a beautifully arranged table, Duff grinning as if nothing had happened. In the background, David and Amy were more at ease than I had seen them in a long time, as if they were supposed to be there. A sharp squeezing went through my chest. I thought, no more. No more acting like you're someone you're not. Being the fallback option is over. I got up, picked up the suitcase, and began packing. Toiletries, clothes, and a few books. I didn't require much. Although I had not yet decided where I was going, I was clear that I would not be remaining here. My phone buzzed as I closed the suitcase. Duff. I spent a long time looking at the screen. Then I responded, "Esther," Duff said in a cautious, low voice. "We must speak. I believe we've spoken enough." "I'll be over," he declared. "No," I answered. "You're not. I just need you to listen, Esther," I remarked sternly. "I've been listening for 30 years. It's your time now." The person on the other end of the line paused for a while. Duff then let out a sigh. "I'm at the entrance." I turned to face the house's front. He was standing on the porch with his hands stuffed in his jacket pockets when I looked through the glass. His shoulders were bowed, his face was cautious, and he appeared smaller than I remembered. I pulled the door open. When Duff entered, he looked at the packed luggage on the couch. His expression tensed. "You're going to leave?" "Yes." The back of his neck was rubbed. "Where are you heading?" "I'm not sure yet." Duff's forehead wrinkled. "Don't do this, Esther." I gave a sour laugh. "This is not what I'm doing. This is what you did." Duff's jaw clenched. "That wasn't the case." I yelled. "It was just like that. You were with her for 30 Thanksgivings. You allowed our children to deceive me. You gave me the impression that I was insane for wanting to spend the holidays with you." Duff's expression contorted. "I didn't mean to cause you harm." "So why did you?" I fired back. He took a step toward her. "Because I was afraid." I blinked. "Are you afraid?" "Indeed." He raised his voice. "I was unsure of how to tell you. I was needed by Alicia. There was no one else for her. I reasoned that nothing would be taken away from us if I could just be present for her." I muttered. "But it did. Everything was needed." Duff slumped his shoulders. "Esther, you have my love." With my throat burning, I gazed at him. "Do you?" "Yes," Duff muttered. "I always have." "So why didn't you pick me?" My voice broke. Duff's mouth parted, but he made no sound. Helplessness darkened his eyes. "I didn't anticipate losing you." I gave a bitter little laugh. "Well, congrats. You did." At his sides, Duff's hands clenched into fists. "Please, Esther. Let's make this right." I gave a head shake. "We are unable to." "We could try," he begged. I said, "I don't want to try." Duff gasped for air. "Are you really going to leave?" I gave a nod. "I've been looking after you my entire life, looking after Amy and David, always prioritizing other people. And where have I ended up?" Duff took a deep breath. "Esther," I muttered, "you made me feel small, as if I were unimportant." Duff's eyes became gloomy. I interrupted him as he opened his mouth. "No," I muttered. "This is finished." His face contorted in agony. "However, what about the children?" "They've grown," I declared. "They'll be all right." "And me?" Duff had a rough voice. "You'll make it," I answered icily. He let a tear fall down his cheek. I raised a hand as he took a stride in my direction. "Duff, goodbye." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He took a slow step back. Reaching for the doorknob, his eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I apologize," he muttered. "I understand," I muttered. Duff paused. I briefly believed he might say something else. However, he simply nodded and left. I locked the door after he had left. The divorce papers were signed 2 weeks later. I didn't argue with Duff over the settlement. All I wanted was the house and enough money to start fresh. Amy made one call. David did the same. "We're sorry," was what they both said. "I need time," I informed them. I had lost my anger. Simply put, I'm exhausted. A week after the divorce was finalized, Alicia shared another photo. "We are beginning a new chapter together, my love." Duff was standing next to her. He appeared to be forced to smile. He didn't look directly at the camera. Once more, Amy and David were in the background. However, they didn't appear to be as at ease this time. I noticed it and laughed. The laugh wasn't resentful. I just resigned. Give them each other. At last, I had made my own decision. I was sitting on a California beach 3 months later. The waves made a gentle, constant sound, and the sun felt warm across my skin. As I watched the sunset, I sipped my drink and grinned. Amy's message chimed on my phone. "Are you all right, Mom?" I replied back with a slight smile. "I'm fine." There was another message. "David, Dad has been inquiring about you, Mom." I didn't answer. Rather, I switched off my phone, reclined in my chair, and saw the sun setting. I lived for someone else for 30 years. Right now, at last, I was living for myself.